Let's talk about a steel frame Kona Hanzo, shall we? I want to talk to you guys about my 2020 custom steel frame Kona Hanzo. I had some really good feedback from the Hanzo ESD review. In that video, I made some comparisons to my steel frame Hanzo. I want to talk about exactly how I built this up. It seemed like there were a lot of questions relating to the angled headset and the reduced offset fork, as well as the length of the fork. And so I want to tell you all about that, maybe help you decide how you want to build up your Hanzo. All right, so let's go over the details. I'm running a Stans Arch MK3 wheel set. I've got some Maxxis Ardent 2.4s on there, front and rear with the skin or tan wall. I love those wheels. Those are only a 26 mil rim, but because of the design of those Stans wheels, you can actually run a pretty wide tire on there with a good profile. They're nice and lightweight. I've actually had really good luck out of the hub, and I would probably run a Meteor front tire. I am running a RockShox Pike Ultimate, and I started, this was a 51 mil offset, and then I converted it to a 42 mil offset. I'm running a set of the Chromag Fubar bars. These are actually 780 bars. I've cut them down to about 770. And I've got a Spank 35 mil stem. And then I've got one of the Wolf Tooth Bling Kit top caps here to match. And then I've got a matching Wolf Tooth seat post clamp there. I actually got some of the Muc-Off tubeless valve stems, as I do have these set up tubeless. I'm running Guide R's, which I personally like. And the cool thing on this size large frame, I'm able to run a 210 1-up dropper post, and I've got GX Eagle cranks. I actually had to run a Sunrays cassette on here just because I had a Shimano style free hub body on those Stans wheels, and then I've got a GX derailleur. They're really great bikes to build up. For $550, you can get yourself a steel frame that will last you a lifetime. They have a threaded bottom bracket. They're just easy to build up. Prior to picking up my new ESD, this was actually my third Hanzo build. I had one of the Hanzos that actually had the 450 mil reach, felt too short for me. For reference, I'm 5'9", almost 5'10". I had a couple of buddies that actually had large Hanzos. I would get on them and I would instantly regret the fact that I had a medium because it just felt roomier, it felt more comfortable, but it actually felt more capable. I didn't feel like I was on top of the bike, I felt like I was more in the bike. So when I decided to build up this custom steel frame, I picked up a size large. In case you've not been following my channel, I actually have a 2020 Santa Cruz Hightower. The Hightower has a reduced offset fork geometry. It has about a 65-degree head tube angle with a 42 mil offset RockShox Lyric Ultimate. I love that combination, and so I wanted to come up with a way to make a reduced offset work on the Hanzo. So I built this bike up. It had the 51 offset fork. It was already in the 140 travel, and I didn't hate that setup, but it just felt like the steering wandered. I felt like the front wheel was out in front of the bike, and instead of being able to lean the bike appropriately in corners, I felt like to turn, I was literally turning the bars more than I should. So it was that point I actually picked up a used CSU. I got a 42 mil offset CSU. Check out my video where I actually show you how to put that on and convert your fork to reduced offset. I put it on and instantly, even with the stock headset, I loved it. It just felt like the steering was so much snappier. I no longer felt like the front wheel was out in front of me, but I felt like it was underneath me. I get away with that because this is a longer reach. If I were still running one of the mediums with the 450 reach, I'm convinced that at least with the stock head tube angle, the reduced offset may have in fact felt a little bit twitchy and unpredictable. But because it's longer, just really felt balanced. And especially when I went with the angled headset, it's a really good combo. When you go with the angled headset, it does lengthen the wheelbase out. Obviously, you're taking the front wheel, you're scooting it forward. When you do that, it actually lowers the front of the bike a little bit. The cool thing is that's got me back to probably where you would start in the stock configuration when you consider the fact that I'm running a 140 fork. So I literally gave the front end of the bike a 20 mil lift kit, but then I raked it back out with the angled headset. Now, the reduced offset does bring it back and lift it slightly, but in this configuration, it does not feel awkward. And I think that's the question that a lot of Hanzo owners have is, how is the bike gonna lose its snappy nature? Is it gonna feel like an awkward pig if I put that angled headset and really slacken it? Or when I go with that 140 fork, is it just gonna kill the ride of the bike? And I'm telling you right now, it's not such a huge difference that it's gonna kill the ride. I love this bike in this setup. It corners well. the capability is increased by putting that 140 fork on there. I've ridden Hanzos with 120s and 130s. 140 is the way to go. So if you're in question about that, even if you don't run an angled headset, even if you don't do a reduced offset, try a 140 fork, like you're going to like it. But then when you add the 140 with the angled headset and the reduced offset, this thing just becomes a big pile of magic. Don't be afraid to try it. I actually have a video where I show you how to change out the air spring on these RockShox forks. It's very similar on the Fox forks. It's not a hard job to do. Just try it, see if you like it. If you're already a Hanzo owner and you're curious about this upgrade, go with the longer travel. It increases the capability. There's people that are running 150 forks on these bikes without issues. You can certainly get away with the 140. As far as an angled headset, they're pretty easy to put on. They are a little bit expensive. Those Works components I think are around 150, 160. So it is an expensive upgrade. I will say that the angled headset that I went with the 1.5, I'm glad I didn't go with less. A lot of people are talking about a half a degree or a degree. Really, to even make it noticeable, I think you got to go at least a degree, if not a degree and a half, to really notice the change. And I'm glad that I went with it. Plus, it really makes the bike look a lot better just to have that raked out look to it, in my opinion. The reduced offset actually brings the front wheel back underneath you slightly just to balance out that extra slackness of taking the front wheel forward. So you still have the slack head tube angle, but it brings the front wheel back. Talk about what I love about this bike. This bike is actually a really snappy feeling bike. It's not the lightest bike in the world, even with this build up, with a relatively lightweight set of wheels, some pretty decent components on it, GX Eagle build kit, it still comes in right at 30 pounds. But when you get on it, especially if you're used to a full suspension or a bigger trail bike, it just feels like a lightning bolt. It is a blast to ride. When you get on the gas, it just goes. So if you're somebody that's just looking for a really capable but snappy all-around trail bike, I would give those new 2021 steel frame Hanzos a look, because you can build it up to be very, very similar to this bike. There are a few things that I don't love as much about this Hanzo. For me, and this is actually going to be applicable to the 2021s just like it is for the 2020s and earlier, is the reach number. 450 felt too short for me. 475 feels just a little bit long. Now, as I've mentioned, using the reduced offset fork really helped to tighten the feel of this bike up for me so that I can run this 475 and feel relatively comfortable. But the new ESD numbers, 465 for a size medium, hits me at 5'9", almost 5'10", perfectly. The other thing that I don't love, and it's gonna be a little bit more prominent on the 2020 and earlier, but they still have it on the 2021s. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted that medium frame ESD, is that on the ESD, they actually eliminated the shark's fin. Now on the new 2021s, they do appear to be shorter, but it really comes up pretty high and it's noticeable while you're riding the bike. I like to get super low and then spring up for when I'm going into a manual or a bunny hop, and it really keeps the seat in the way, and I don't love that about this bike. Another thing related to the rear seat is that the seat tube angle on these 2020s and earlier are just a little bit slacker, and that lends itself to feeling like you're a little bit behind the bike. I would be curious to ride one of the 2021s in a size large. I bet I would be a little bit more comfortable because they actually steepen the seat tube angle. And then the glaringly obvious thing about these 2020s and previous that I don't love is the steep head tube angle. 68 degrees, in my humble opinion, is antiquated. It's very steep. When I would get on these bikes, especially when I was on the mediums, it would just feel like I was gonna go over the handlebars, especially when I got used to, say, my Hightower that has a 64.5, 65 degree head tube angle. It's just really steep, and I like that capability of having the slacker head tube angle. But the cool thing is, with these headsets, you can easily throw on that angled headset and remedy that. With this setup, I'm rocking probably 66 degree head tube angle, and so it's plenty capable in that configuration, and I do like having that adjustability, but in its stock format, it just doesn't do for me. So if I were personally building up even one of the 2021s, although Kona calls for a 51 mil offset, if you're like me and you can actually size up, I would really consider doing the reduced offset. So if you're a current Hanzo owner, you've been curious about these upgrades, give them a try. I don't feel like I lost anything by going with that slacker head tube angle and reduced offset fork, but I do feel like I gained some capability. I do feel like I gained a better handling bike. So thanks for listening to me ramble on about this 2020 steel frame Hanzo. I hope you found it enjoyable. Hope you found it helpful. Please consider subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already checked it out, check out that Hanzo ESD review video. If you guys haven't done so already, hop over, follow me on Instagram at Dr_J_MTB. As always, thanks for watching.